Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Well, we all know that stress is not good for our bodies, but how bad is stress? What's it doing to you? Would you believe it's getting into the cells of your body, like cellular level affecting you? Could be making you sick, could be causing chronic illness, and so much more. We're going to look at that today, and also how to deal with stress when it comes to hypnotherapy. I bet you didn't think about that. She is a certified hypnotherapist, and looking forward to talking about this today. Melissa Darrington joins us here on the program. How you doing?
Bodies, particularly when we're under stress, but even from a chronic perspective, just how far that can go and how it can actually kill you if you don't get it under control.
So I can very much relate to this. I had an ulcer about 6-7 years ago, all related to stress. I knew exactly where it came from. And even last fall, just about a year ago, I was having digestion issues, all related to stress. I knew what it was. I knew where the stress was coming from. Let's talk about how stress can manifest in your body. What can you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, stress is essentially, that feeling of being overwhelmed, feeling like you've got a lot on your plate. Many of us go throughout the day. We have our normal things that we have to do, but then you have the things that perhaps get piled on top of that. You got a big project you got due now, or, someone just died in the family. You just had a baby. All of these, it can be bad or good stressors, but when we have too many of them on top of everything else, then it can overwhelm us, and then it can start to affect our bodies in different ways. So besides the fact that, we're all discombobulated in our heads and we feel like, it's hard to sort things out and get it straight, it starts to actually manifest in our body in different ways. So starting in our brain, we're having all of these, confusing thoughts. It's starting to now then affect our nervous system. So then we're tapping into the vagus nerve, which is the main nerve that runs throughout our bodies. Those messages are being sent from the brain through the vagus nerve and then throughout the organs of our bodies. And that is what helps to regulate the proper functioning of those organs, depending on where we're resonating on that Hertz frequency that we were talking about last week. So Hertz is how we measure sound. It's also how we measure brain waves. And so again, depending on the level of the Hertz and how high it is and how constant that is, it's going to start to affect our bodies in different ways. Obviously, from the brain perspective, it's going to be harder to really think and be clear about things to make those tougher decisions that are really important for us to make. We can experience things like headaches or have eye problems, just because of the fact that, again, there's so much blood being pumped through the system. We're talking about the brain almost has an umbilical cord to the heart, if you will, because we have that neural network of 40,000 brain cells in the heart. So those messages are constantly being, transferred and sent throughout our bodies. And starting in the heart, which is where we find that the vagus nerve first starts, it's literally like sending out throughout every part of the body, starting with the heart. You can have high blood pressure. You can have arrhythmias. There are so many things that can happen in that perspective that starting out just from there, stress essentially, when you're experiencing it, is like a mild form of a stroke, if you will. That's how I've heard it described and how I've read it. And so what happens is, because of all of this blood and the pressure of the blood pumping through your body, you're essentially pushing through too much of the blood. It's actually allowed to come out of the vessels in too much of too much blood essentially is coming out. And so what happens is you're blocking up the areas in between the cells, if you will. It's not allowing those blood clotting agents, the excess fluid, and all of those things to be able to be recirculated through the white bloodstream, which is our immune system. So when all of that is getting stuck in the cell spaces between the cells, it's causing that inflammation. A lot of people may experience that out there as well. If you're having a lot of inflammation, a lot of pain in your body, that is because you're not able to get the oxygen to the cells to be able to help repair the cells. So these are just a few of the components that happen when we are experiencing stress. And especially chronically, these things continue to build up over time and cause even more problems. This causes the skyrocketing of the medical bills. It causes our premiums to go up. It causes so many different problems, not only in our body, but the fact that many people then end up having to go on medications as a result. I don't know if you experienced that when you were having your ulcers. And I mean, even just talking from the digestive perspective, you can have acid reflux, you can have irritable bowel syndrome, you can have it all the way chronically to Crohn's disease. And this will essentially, over time, if you continue to have these problems, will lead to things like, again, needing medications, needing surgery, needing to have healthcare professionals for mental evaluations and things like that. But what we're finding is many people are having a hard time being able to know how to manage that stress, how to reduce the stress levels, to recenter ourselves and to get back into that state of homeostasis, or the parasympathetic state of the nervous system. So when we're in sympathetic, we're constantly in that fight or flight. We're constantly feeling like, that bear in the woods that's attacking us or potentially attacking us. But really, we don't understand many times that we have that ability to calm down in the moment and be able to get a clearer picture and idea of what's going on.
Thank you for sharing all of this. What an eye-opener, first of all.
Yeah. Was for me too.
Wow. It's interesting when you find out what's actually going on in our bodies. Not all stress is bad, though, correct? It can support us.
Right, exactly. But the main thing is that we're maintaining more of that state of homeostasis. Even when you think about what you learned about cells, you talked about cells earlier. Cells are meant to be in a state of rest, unless we need to use that energy within them for a reason that is, of course, something that could be concerning to us, something to help protect us, right? So we'll get out of that situation, the fight or flight. We'll do what we need to protect ourselves, but we shouldn't always be in that state.
Do you feel that many of us deal with stress and then it's like the snowball down the hill? It just continues and we just suck it up.
Yes.
I'm just going to keep going. And we don't even know how stressed out we are.
And society, I think, expects us to suck it up too, which is what makes it harder. We need to be able to present a certain way, obviously in public. We need to be able to be in that state of calmness, which is what we should be in.
Sure.
But unfortunately, we realize that we're not, and we're trying to maintain that status quo. But inside, we're not really being able to do that effectively. So unfortunately, we are maintaining what we need to outwardly, but we're not really maintaining that space of homeostasis inwardly. And so that's where it becomes a problem.
So now that we've defined stress and everything involved with it, and how detrimental it can be, there's many ways to deal with stress. One of them is hypnotherapy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, so with hypnotherapy, what's great is we talked about brainwave states last week. A lot of these patternings get set up as far as stress and how we handle them, for instance, learned from the people who were around us. How did they handle stress? How did they get to that space? And a lot of times, we tend to follow what we know. And if we don't know any different, then unfortunately we can get stuck in this loop of, well, I'm doing what I think I should do. It's not working. I'm still feeling stressed out. Now what do I do? So when we think about those patternings again, most of the state that we were in brainwave-wise was the theta state. So with working with hypnosis, we work with that state primarily, especially when we're exploring what's going on, what may have happened in that situation, and what comes up during that state is what is important specifically to the issue that we're dealing with. The feelings that you're feeling in your body, what you're experiencing as far as the memories you may be having and things of that nature are all related in some way. So we explore all of that within that safe space, that theta space. We help create that space with the client. And they then safely can go in and be sort of like that observer that doesn't have to feel at that point like these things can hurt them any longer. It's really just about looking at it and being able to understand what caused us to come to that place to begin with. And then it also allows us to be able to see how we can make peace with that and those resources that help us to understand, this was just something that really should not have been, or, this caused me to feel this way for this reason, but I don't have to feel that way any longer. I understand it now.
I've experienced hypnotherapy before to deal with things from the past, and fantastic. I am a hypnotherapy cheerleader. Love it.
Yes, thank you.
Amazing. I try to connect it to stress and how that supports. I get it.
Yes.
But when somebody goes to you and they're dealing with a stressful situation, how do you work with somebody on a hypnotherapy level?
So I work with them primarily by when they come in, we talk. We help create, again, that safe space where they know that they can open up about whatever is important to them or comfortable for them. But it's more about understanding that none of this can hurt you now. When you really understand that all of this is really just about our thoughts and our feelings, and it's not about something external that's actually chasing us or coming after us, then it's a lot easier to, relax and be like, it really honestly, like, it's just like when somebody tells you something and they explain it in a different way than what you've been used to understanding it. And then you're like, oh, wow, I never thought about it that way before. But yeah, I can look at this. I can, this isn't something that's happening in the moment. I don't need to be afraid of this. I need to understand it. And the understanding is really what brings that clarity as well as the calm and peacefulness within the situation.
Melissa, do you find a lot of times there are aha moments with people where they realize, oh, wait a minute, it's not as bad as I thought it was?
Yeah, happens many times throughout the session. And, again, a good hypnotherapist will help to direct those and guide those questions so that introspection can happen in the way that's effective for that person. Because, the way that we learn the best is when we understand these things on our own. And as a therapist, and even as you sitting and talking with someone, you can see what's going on and you understand underneath a lot of times what has led to what's going on, right? I'm sure you've experienced that just with talking to your friends about a particular situation. You're like, why can't they see what's going on here? But it's not our job to tell them that. It's for our job to help to lead them to that understanding, if you will.
Well, it's kind of what we said in the past, where you're not controlling somebody's mind. You're basically giving them the keys to open it up and figure out what's going on there. When you work with somebody on a stress level, how does that connect with anxiety?
So stress and anxiety, again, we're talking about the brainwave states, our different thoughts that we can be holding, and we're talking about with those 40,000 brain cells in the heart, all of those emotions, all of those, memories that we have, I don't want to say trapped in there, but stored in there that, obviously they're there to help protect us. They help us to remember what may have happened in the past to try to, prevent that from happening again. But it can be outdated. It may have been helpful at the time, but isn't helpful now in this point. And that's why all that stress keeps coming up. And so we keep trying to make sense of it, but when we're doing it just with our brain and we're not engaging the subconscious, the heart, then we're not really getting to that full effect of the understanding of what has happened and being able to move past it.
So what I'm gathering here is essentially stress is, it's there to support us. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, like you said, it's connected to things from the past that don't support us anymore.
Many times, yes.
Mm. Wow. When you're doing a session with somebody and it's about stress, do they identify the actual cause of the stress, or they just tell you, I'm stressed out?
Sometimes they maybe have looked into it a little bit deeper and can understand more of those aspects. But a lot of times, if you think about it, many of us, it's harder to go into that space and really be clear about, especially when emotions are involved, and did we think the right way about it? Did we feel the right way about it? It's always important to explore all of that whenever you are in this state of confusion, because if you're constantly repeating patterns or having things happen or occur in your life that are not pleasing for you, but you're still continuing to do the same things, then obviously nothing is going to change. And that's where many times people come to that place where they're like, okay, I'm just fed up. I can't deal with this anymore. This is literally affecting every area of my life. And that's what will happen, unfortunately, because you're going to revert back to that programming unless you understand differently.
How many sessions does it, and I know this is a tough question.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Every situation is different. How many sessions does it typically take when somebody's dealing with stress?
So depending on what it is that they're dealing with, because sometimes people can be coming to you saying that they feel like the stress is it's connected to one thing, but many times you find that a lot of other things will come out as well. So when I used to work with my clients with traditional hypnotherapy, it did take more sessions, it seemed like. And a lot of times that was because what I came to understand with traditional hypnotherapy and just doing the scripts is I'm developing a script based on what the client has come to me about from their conscious state, not necessarily from their subconscious state. What I've found with the type of hypnotherapy that I'm doing now is that we're actually addressing everything instead of one thing, and hopefully, being able to give them or help them to come to that resource through the course of the scripting that we're doing with them, right? Many times they would have to listen to this every night for the next 7 days as well. This cuts down with what I'm doing because we can deal with each individual thing that's going on within the same session. And we're able to actually do a process of fractionization, which allows us to take a person. We're essentially staying in the state of hypnosis, but we're going deeper and coming out to a lighter state to kind of discuss things and talk about things, if you will. But there is the introspection part where we allow them that space to really look at the issue and really allow those emotions and different things to come up within them to help them to get the clearest perspective of what's going on. Now, with what I do, I can help my clients in one session, and I have successfully done that.
Wow. Is there a name for the type of hypnotherapy that you practice now as opposed to previously?
Yeah, so hypnosis, is basically what it's called, scripting for traditional hypnosis. Conversational hypnosis is the type of hypnosis that I'm doing now. And so again, this isn't just a laying back and just listening. And yes, we do have aspects of that within what I do, but it's not totally you just laying back. not really having that opportunity to speak and integrate, if you will, with the experience. And that's what this allows me to be able to do. And I find that my clients have such breakthroughs that it's amazed me with some of the things that they've been able to manifest as a result. New cars, new jobs. It's just been amazing. But this is all because of that change that happens within them. It just opens up so many more possibilities for them that they weren't open to before.
I have a visual of the chains coming off somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Isn't it somewhat ironic that you're talking about the scripting that you used to use, but it's been said that we're running, all of us are running on a script that doesn't support us from our past?
Right. And how do I know that the script that I develop is going to pinpoint, or it's going to, address exactly what I need to with you? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And, what we see is you can have longer term success with it. I was speaking with a client yesterday, as a matter of fact. She did have hypnosis, the traditional type, but I think she had a little bit more with it as well. She didn't go deep into it. She had success for 4 years with, not drinking soda, and there was something else that she had dealt with as well. But with this, because of the fact that we're able to address any issue that's around that particular symptom or problem that they're having, we can address everything so that we can help assure the lifelong success.
What is the probability of it not working?
The main reason why hypnosis will not work for someone is if there is that resistance and they really aren't ready for that. Yeah, that's really what I've seen, to be honest with you.
And excuse me, I've seen the same thing, and I think I shared with you. I suggested it to a family member, and she did like 3 sessions. That's not really making a difference. I know that she wasn't open to it. I know her personality, and I feel that she wasn't ready for it, because it would have worked. The practitioner was great. It would have worked. But if you're not open to the change and open to letting it in, it's
letting the experience happen, right?
Yeah, it's not going to work. If you're resisting it, if you have doubts, it can't. It's not going to work.
You could be the best hypnotherapist, hypnotist in the world. You can use all of the techniques, and, I do all of those still within what I do. It's not that I take hypnosis out of it, because those aspects are still important for helping that client to get into the state that's important for us to work within. So we don't negate hypnosis. We just I have learned to approach it differently so that I have more success with it.
It's the classic spouse is smoking. Their partner doesn't want them to smoke anymore for good reason, and says, I'm signing you up for hypnotherapy. Well, if that person still wants to smoke, it's not going to work.
No, it's not a good idea at all. And that's one of the things that we're taught in traditional hypnosis is, you don't accept clients that someone else has paid for the session. They're trying to get them in. Automatically, you're going to have resistance, and it's not going to work.
I love your clarity. I really do.
Thank you.
Make it crystal clear, so understandable. And when it comes to stress, even today, what we're talking about, I've never heard it described the way you brought it to us.
Yeah.
And how it really affects our bodies in so many different ways. Honestly, never even thought of hypnotherapy for stress. Wow.
Absolutely. I have people come to me all the time now for it. I've helped with all different areas, smoking, weight loss, you name it, test taking, but anxiety is really where it comes down to. It's usually so much stress that we're dealing with, or something that we just can't get past that is causing those blocks in our lives. And
it's wonderful that it can be done virtually, anywhere.
Absolutely.
How do we connect with you? How do we find you, Melissa?
Yeah. So you can find me on Google. I'm on Google Maps under Happy Medium Hypnosis. I have a Calendly link there where you can schedule with me so we can see if this is a good fit for you. You can understand exactly what I do, with the clients that I work with and how I achieve that success with them in one session. Also, my number, if you would like to reach out to me for speaking engagements or just to speak with me directly, 602-622-2684.
It is crippling when somebody's dealing with stress, and this is the solution. And like you said, aha moments when people realize, wait a minute, I don't need to do that anymore. I didn't realize what was going on. Thank you so much for being here today. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, Steve.
We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Can I touch this? Where does sand come from? Is this tree good for climbing? What happens if I mix these two things together? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Storing your guns securely is the best way to prevent family fire, including unintentional shootings. For more information on safe gun storage and ways to keep your family safe, visit endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org.
What do we keep in the attic? What's this thing called? Can I ride my bike backwards?
Like I said, kids are curious. It's up to us to keep them safe. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.